Hello, Galaxy. Chris Pirillo here. And if you were already watching this happen live, then that probably sounded very weird and out of place. Because we are streaming on Twitch 24/7, a Locker Gnome arcade, which you are more than welcome to join if you happen to be watching this VOD. Not being able to catch TLDR live, the Locker Gnome daily reports. And this is going to be archived likely on this channel indefinitely at some point in the future. And this is actually a news bit we may dive in a little bit into tomorrow. YouTube is thinking about, or I guess they are starting to integrate podcast features on the platform. And I feel that TLDR could very well work as a podcast feature, very loosey-goosey podcast, with tech news and tech talk and tech deals and what have you. I'm joined tonight by Sinoop and Glendon and Thomas, aka Negril. Now, remember, when I was originally developing, it would have been, if I could say that, right, a basic programming in, the Commodore 64 or on the 64 or the VIC-20. Nothing like this. So wait, Thomas, what are you working on?
So right now, I am working on a kind of farming idle clicker game. I don't know how familiar with kind of the idle games you are, but they're essentially kind of autonomous games in a way. So they're kind of games you kind of sort of leave in the background, you kind of click into every now and then, and they kind of, you generate money, points, whatever kind of, kind of levels generation that the game has. And so that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment, is building up a system where you can interact with different parts of the world and kind of the sort of core logic needed for that. So this game is a farming based game, so you're going to have different plots of land that you can unlock and sort of buy, and you'll be able to grow crops on it, and you can essentially sell the produce from the crop, and that's how you progress in the game. You grow more produce, you sell that, and you can use it to upgrade your farm, which will allow you to make more produce quicker, and then generating higher income faster and faster as you go. And that's essentially is what the game is going to be.
And have you? This is not certainly your first rodeo. This is not the first game you've developed.
Correct.
So how'd you get started with game development?
Really, I mean, I come from a programming background anyway, so I started off primarily sort of doing sort of desktop software development, and then kind of transitioning over to sort of into web and then game development. So I have a sort of programming history anyway. But what kind of got me into game dev was essentially just, having a love for video games, but it was just coming up with lots of ideas myself for things that I would like to kind of try or see done. And I kind of come across the engine Unity, which loads and loads of different games use, and it kind of just made it really sort of easy to get started with game development. And so as I kind of gradually learned more and more of the system, it kind of helped me develop my ideas of what I wanted to do, and that's essentially how I got into it. It was just giving it a go, and I enjoyed it and stuck with it.
Did you like do that decades ago? Did you do that like just the past few years? How long have you been at it?
Yeah, I've been programming sort of about half my life really, so that's sort of the last sort of 12, 13 years. But in terms of game development, it's probably the last kind of, maybe within sort of the last 8 to 9 years-ish is kind of when I've been doing game development, kind of on and off in between my other kind of programming sort of jobs and tasks. So yeah, it's sort of about a decade's worth of history there.
Is that your career at this point?
Yeah, I mean, my day job is as a web developer, primarily doing stuff on the web and kind of apps. But I started off in desktop software, and I still do that kind of as a hobby from time to time. But game dev is kind of what I mainly do, kind of in between kind of my actual day job and any other kind of freelance work I may have.
So this game you're developing to release then?
Yes. That is the plan, is to release it and kind of get people's ideas on it. And I've made lots of different kind of concepts of games over the years, and kind of things that I've sort of started and never really kind of finished or fully fleshed out. But I've always had the goal to release a game and actually have people play it. And so this is kind of a, rather than biting off more than I can chew, and kind of creating something that's really kind of too big to kind of for me to kind of ever release. This is a nice simple game that I can kind of just get out there and just see what people think.
Now, are you going, full tilt with graphics, or is it going to look retro?
Yeah, it's going to be a retro, so it's going to be a pixel style game.
Sweet.
So yeah, which is I cover a nice art style I like as well.
Yeah, I tend to. I don't know why. It's just, even modern games that are pixelated. I know everyone's all about ray tracing and shadows and reflections and all that, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? There's just something to be said about seeing pixels. I don't know. Maybe it's just that's how I grew up.
It's probably the experience of bringing you back.
Yeah,
that's what happens for me when I'm kind of playing, the retro stuff. Like I remember playing it when I was a kid.
I'm the same way. It's a big nostalgia factor.
It kind of makes you escape back to that younger
Simpler
self,
times.
right?
Simpler times.
The simpler, the better for me. And no matter what the engine. Is this going to be cross-platform, single platform? What are you targeting?
No, this will be cross-platform, so you'll be able to play it on. I mean, this is the Unity engine, which makes cross-platform development super easy because it's essentially programmed once, and the engine just takes care of it. So you can distribute it to desktop, to console, to mobile, to web, everywhere, and the game will just run.
I see. So is that why you chose Unity?
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons. Yeah. Because it just deals with all of that kind of headaches for you of all the different libraries from all the different OSs and all the different graphics libraries. It's all just in one centralized system. You just tell it what to do and it figures out the rest.
So then what games inspire you?
Well, kind of really, I mean, I grew up playing sort of the N64 and PS1. So for me, kind of, if I had to really kind of pick the games that really kind of where it all started, it would be something like Crash Bandicoot, sort of Spyro. Minecraft is one of my favorites as well, which I know is not as old as those titles, but that's certainly been a big inspiration of mine as well. So those are kind of really sort of the top three games that I always go back to whenever someone says, pick a game that you absolutely just love or, really inspires you. It'd definitely be those three games, always.
See, I don't have to ask anybody's age. I just ask what kind of games they like, and inevitably they'll pinpoint well, I like pinball machines, and I remember playing pinball at the arcade and quarters. I'm like, okay, so you're old.
You got to be at least 40.
Yeah, it must be at least this tall to play video games back in the day. And by the way, Sinu and Glendon, if you have any questions that might come to mind as we're having this conversation, feel free to ask. Yeah, so it's really, I'm glad that you're sharing your experience here and with everybody. I'm glad you've leaned in on this locker room arcade idea as well, and maybe then people you'll see the game, you'll be able to play the game as a demo inside the live stream. It's kind of funny, as Burton pointed out, we got a sneak peek.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I mean, I've kind of, as a side kind of idea, I mean, my brain's always firing with ideas. I'm a very creative person, so I always have too many ideas to kind of put down to paper almost. But I kind of, one of the things with brewing the Bratgand is, why not make a lock and own game that everyone can jump in and get involved on,
That would be fun.
Whether that's from ideas or whether it's from a multiplayer point of view or whatever, why not make a lock and own game? We can do it.
There is hang on, y'all didn't tell me. I need to change the category on Twitch to software and game development. So this is the first time we're marking the first time tonight talking about software and game development. TLDR, which is amazing. Cool. You helped make that happen. So yeah, I appreciate you programming anytime, day or night. Your day, your night, doesn't matter. You're always welcome to jump in, certainly, to do something like that. And it looks like Dragon Samurai's got his stuff staged too. I don't know if
you do any mobile development as well, or?
I do, yes. I have done mobile development. I'm kind of got an app on the go for my day job, but also I have delved around with kind of doing mobile style games as well. So that is a territory I'm familiar with as well.
Cool.
Yeah, that's most of my. I mean, gaming at the desktop might be a Mac, unless it's a big game, like a big title.
Yeah.
I would say most of my gaming is just very simple on the phone. I find the ones that probably no one else really cares about, but I find interesting. Like I pulled this up the other day too. It's like the classic Minesweeper game. If you remember from like Windows way back when.
Oh yeah.
The old
Super addictive.
Minesweeper. It's styled exact. I mean, it is like down to just a crappy frowny face, smiley face graphic. It's perfect in every way, and it was kind of modernized, and it's free. There's like no in-app purchases or anything like that, so it makes it very. If I just want to play a game real quick, get my mind off something, it's either going to be that or maybe a crosswords puzzle. But those tend to be the ones that I do, just ones that are easy to get in and get out, easy to figure out. So what's this? Oh, is that your wallpaper?
This I'm going to show you here. If you just give me a second to mute the game in Windows. This is actually a game I made a little while ago. A little sort of dungeon crawler game that I'd kind of spent a little while working on. Yeah, if I can sort of demo it here.
Yeah, please.
So, yeah, I mean
That's awesome.
The actual graphics you see in the game.
Great.
These are all made from free assets I found online. There's a huge library of stuff online that you can use to just get started with game development. So if you're not an artist, just grab something online. If you're not a musician, grab something online. There's so many resources out there now to get you started. And this is basically, I made the code, and then everything else is just pulled in from royalty-free assets online.
Wow.
So that's another beauty about being kind of in this age of development. There's just that whole world out there of resources that you can just grab, chuck into an engine, and just get going.
Was this built in Unity as well?
This was done in Unity as well.
Now, do you have a particular platform that you prefer developing for, or is it just pretty much the same across the board since you use Unity?
Yeah, there's no real particular platform preference, really. I mean, yeah, using something like Unity means you can pretty much switch between any platform you want. And there's certainly, certain things you have to consider for one platform versus the other. I mean, I'm primarily a PC gamer, so I always kind of target the PC first, but there's no reason why this kind of sort of game I was designing to kind of work on both a console and a PC as well. Mm-hmm. I'm actually playing this right now with an Xbox controller on my PC. So something like Unity makes the all of the input system completely universal. It's just one line of code, and it'll work between a keyboard, a mouse, a controller, whatever you've got plugged in. It just recognizes it as a universal input device. The engine takes care of all of the other translation for you. You just read an input, and it'll figure out what it is based on the device. If it's a touch screen, you've got ways of dealing with that as well. So it's a hugely powerful engine. And over the years, it's just got more and more powerful.
So the artwork, is this some of that yours, or are you pulling that in from different things?
No, I'm putting that in from online. There's a huge website called OpenGameArt, and you've got loads of different textures and resources on there that people have just made and uploaded. It's kind of basically like an open source resource center, essentially. People just make artwork, resources, whatever, and they just stick it on there, and you can download and use in whichever project however you wish. So my intention was to eventually do my own artwork for this, but as a way of just prototyping something with code, this was a great way to get started. I can just drop in the artwork and I can just get on with the code. So yeah, this is kind of this is essentially kind of what the game is. It's an infinitely generating kind of world. So there'll be different. This is kind of a dungeon made up, I think, of 9 rooms. One of them was going to be a boss room, which I don't actually have the bosses in the game yet. But the idea was it's just infinitely generating. You keep going through the world until you die, and it will just build up a leaderboard of people's highest scores. And it's just a competition of who can get the furthest in the game.
Nice.
And as you get further, the game gets harder.
So do you have the ability? So I'm going to ask, do you have the ability to do network play? Someone can join.
Yeah, that's another thing Unity does really well. It never really used to have a fully kind of fleshed out networking system, but sort of in the recent few years, they've actually embedded that as part of the engine now. So you can either use the Unity Cloud service, which is essentially their kind of they host the servers for you. You just connect into their network via an API essentially, or you can go down the route of full dedicated hosting. You can write the server application as well as the game and do whatever the communication you need to do. And it will figure out all of the network translation, the sending, receiving all packets, etc. All of that kind of stuff that is built into Engine as well.
All the
Very
heavy
nice.
lifting. Yeah.
Now, is there multiplayer involved in this?
Well,
There isn't on this particular game, but it would have a leaderboard functionality. So it would essentially
Gotcha.
post a database online of just people's scores, and you'd be able to see that in the game.
Right.
And something like Steam has an API that you can essentially basically just drop into something like Unity, and you can use that to interact with the Steam client. There's obviously other clients out there that have similar things, but again, it just makes it easy to interact with kind of the existing technologies out there. You don't have to think about that. You just essentially have to tell it where to go and what to do, and it will just handle it for you.
Nice.
It's pretty wild. I mean, the closest thing I had, there was I couldn't tell you what it was called, but it was a C64 disc that allowed you to build your own game. Like you built your own sprites and everything, and you couldn't do this exactly, but like you couldn't do infinite dungeon or anything like that. But you're almost out of health.
The idea is that when you get to below a certain level of health, it starts shrinking the actual screen of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
It
noticed
makes
that.
it harder and
That's a
harder,
cool
which is
touch.
something I've not really kind of seen done before.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea I was exploring, really. So, yeah.
So there you go. Jeff says my 5-year-old wants to play this. She said it looks adorable.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, anyone could play that kind of game, and it's
You're going in the right direction with the leaderboard thing, because those type of games people are highly competitive with, wanting to be on top.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a huge kind of part of gaming now, is it? The whole competitive thing. I mean, you think how sort of big esports and all that kind of things have taken off, and speedrunning, all that kind of things that have taken off now. People want to be the best, essentially, don't they? So, why not kind of make use of that? And from a game point of view, it's simple. You don't have to worry about doing full on multiplayer. You just need to worry about just handling of posting of scores, essentially. That's all you've got to worry about,
So
go ahead, Cena.
I was just curious about, like, ballpark, how many hours would you have put into this already, programming?
This is probably over sort of, I guess, the course of a month, I'd probably say. That's not necessarily like every single day, but it's certainly over a sort of good course of a month that I was kind of working on this. And kind of the biggest thing with this is not so much the actual building of the game itself, it's all of the fine tweaking that's involved, making sure the speed is right, that it moves a certain way, you can attack from a certain distance, making sure enemies aren't too powerful, etc. Just getting that balance of the game. Even I myself kind of have got engrossed in it. I've sat there for kind of like a good sort of 40 minutes on a single run of the game, just trying to get as high of a score as I can. So it's the biggest part is the play testing. But yeah, this is about a month's worth of work.
Back! What are you doing? Back away! Let me get your health back.
He's not scared of anything.
I
He
guess
just goes.
not. I'd be like, give my health back, and then I'd charge. There's no timer.
No.
Best defense is a good offense.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Now, are there chests or power-ups or anything in here?
I saw the sword and the shield.
Yeah, there is a shield you can pick up. There was as I actually can't see now, there was I did plan to have basically chests that would spawn, and you would get different gear from that. I think I'm surrounded now.
I think so.
should be able to go down here. That was the plan, was to essentially get chest of upgrades, and you can use that as you progress over, and the game would just keep giving you better gear, better upgrades as you go, until you die.
Nice.
That's pretty wild.
I love the screen mechanic, how it goes away.
Yeah, I was. It's taken a while to kind of get that sort of right. It's still not perfect now, but it's something that I just I thought about. It's like, well, we're sort of what would make it what's a simple mechanic to implement, but would add a whole kind of level of gameplay to it.
It just adds panic to it.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of have to think about, well, do I move away? Do I carry on attacking? But then if I get too low, I'm not going to see where I'm going. Yeah,
whenever
exactly.
the screen shrinks, so you have no idea which way to go unless you've played it numerous times.
Yeah, and that was a deliberate decision. Was to have it cover the UI as well as just the actual level of the world, so that it really kind of does make you think and kind of just adds a different level of gameplay. I have not really seen many people, or I can't recall any game that I've played that has certainly done something like that. So, yeah. And the map is different every time.
I was gonna say, yeah, because isn't it generative? So,
Mhm.
which I think is a fantastic idea because keeps it unpredictable, right? But then how do you do high scores then if the map is like that? How if it's not the same? How
Well, it's always different for everybody, so I guess you would think that would be a level playing field.
A luck of the draw, though. If it was,
I mean, that's no different than like a Pac-Man or something too, right? The patterns would be different no matter which way you go.
I mean, there's certain things I'm doing as part of the generation. Like it's not completely random. Like there's certain criteria that I'm making it meet, so that you can kind of add some kind of like fair sort of chance to it. But I mean, yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's a random level. So you could get a really nice world, you could get a really bad world, and it's up to the player to kind of deal with that, really.
Right.
In the same way that a lot of people, when, for example, people play Minecraft, you could get really lucky and you could spawn right on top of diamonds, but then other people might have to walk 500 hours to get diamonds, So
True.
it's just one of those things. You either get lucky or you don't. Oh.
That is wild.
Oh.
Dude, I'm powering through it. That's awesome. It reminds me as Stun pointed out, like the Zelda dungeon. That it's reminiscent of that, which I loved. And then I for some reason I'm getting an old Boulder Dash kind of feel to it. Not quite, but similar. So yeah, thank you for showing that. That's
yeah. No, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, thank you.
And it looks like Dragon Samurai's got his stuff locked and loaded, ready to go.
Yep.
Thank you, Thomas.
No worries.
And by the way, this is not the last conversation we're going to be having about this stuff. That's the promise.
That's good.
This is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm happy to help.
Thank you. All right, Dragon Samurai 94. What you got for us?
All right. So throughout like last year and this year, I've been challenging myself to create certain games on Game Maker Studio. So I actually did a Baccarat game, a typing game, and a couple of weeks ago, I did that Whack-A-Food game.
Whack a what?
Whack-A-Food.
Whack-A-Food?
Yep.
So you whack food?
No, it's like whack-a-mole, but some fruit pops up.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
So, how long have you been developing games?
I actually started getting into game development around 9th grade. I didn't actually start until 10th grade. That's when I took my programming class, and we had to do like certain things. Like we had to make a typing game. We had to make a Yahtzee type game, and there was some other stuff that we did. So I've been doing this for over 10 years now.
And is that something that you do as a career, or is it something more on the side at this point?
Right now, I'm trying to make it a career. I'm in the process of making a beat 'em up, and also at the same time, I'm making a card game that I came up with back in 2016.
Car Like racing or
No, not card game.
Cards. Okay. Then do you play? I'd assume you if you thought of a card game, I assume you play card games.
Yes.
Good inspiration point. Now, what you said, what is it? You said is Game Builder Studio. Did I get that right?
Game Maker Studio.
Game Maker Studio. So why did you choose that platform over, say, other development environments?
Well, when it comes to messing around with game engines, I started with Game Maker first, and then I went to Unity. But it wasn't the first time I heard about Unity because there was a game called RC Laser Warrior that used Unity that I played a lot as a kid.
So you're just intimately familiar with the platform.
Yeah, but it's mostly with the plugin. But now, years after, I got into C# and then making stuff with Unity.
So then, what do you have loaded here?
Right, so this is one of the programming challenges I did. This was for a Baccarat game.
I've never played it.
So the object of the game is that you get to place your bet, and then you get to place your bet, but to see if the player was gonna win, the banker is gonna win, or if it's gonna be a straight up tie.
Oh, so you bet on somebody else playing the game?
No, like these are the different hands.
Right.
Like, these aren't your hands.
Right. I've never played. You have to pardon. Never. I'm like green when it would come to that. I played card games.
I'm never
before.
familiar with it either.
The names is familiar, but beyond that.
Yeah, I never played Baccarat either. But after watching some videos on it, I was like, hey, maybe I can make this on Game Maker.
And you did.
Yep. It wasn't easy though.
Well, I'd imagine that's the challenge, that you run into in development. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Do you enjoy that challenge?
I actually did enjoy the challenge.
Like, what was the most challenging part for you?
I was about to ask that.
The most challenging part was trying to. Oh my goodness.
Just think of the challenges. Trust me, there's nothing you can say. I mean, I couldn't even figure out how to make the card white. There's nothing that would be a challenge for me.
All right, so the real challenge was these chips, trying to get all these chips just with different values.
To align, different values for the chips. Because there's a whole logic behind it, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Now, back in your development environment, is it object oriented?
It pretty much is.
So then, could you step us through what you're doing with it right now? Show us a little bit.
Yeah, show us how to play.
The game. The development tool.
Oh, all right. Let me show you that. Let me get rid of this. Right. So this is it. So let me go ahead to the poker chip here and here. This is what I had to do to try to code all of these chips at the same time. So I had a left press, a mouse enter, and a mouse leave event. So as you already saw a couple seconds earlier, that if you run your cursor over the chips, it will go a little transparent for a bit, and that's the one that you selected, and then you just click on it to place your bet, and then you would click either player, tie, or banker to place that bet, and then you start off the game with $10,000, virtual menu, of course.
Well, yeah, I'd imagine. I mean, you never know.
You'd want to have your code just right if you started using your own money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you insert the coins to the slots in your computer? Is that it's just?
Yeah.
Nah.
When it goes. Yeah, I'm trying to follow the logic. It's basically if this then that. Am I correct?
Uh-huh. Excuse me for a sec.
Sure.
Okay.
So everything in this it's like you're moving the mouse cursor kind of on the canvas, and the canvas moves.
Oh yeah. In order to move it, I will hold
Yeah.
down the middle mouse button.
Click. Yeah.
And then I can just drag it around. Or I can click on one of the objects.
Oh, right, and then it just zooms you to it.
Yep.
Someone who's like absolutely not familiar with any development like anything like this. It seems as reasonable a layout as anything, logical. I mean, but that's
I don't know. I could probably still mess it up and get lost in there.
Oh, I could get lost. Don't get me wrong. But like
saying.
one thing leads to another. The different components to it, and the different flow to it. And do you have a chance then? I mean, even though this is visual, do you have a chance to look at the actual underlying code for it, not just the high level, the GUI?
Yeah. So during the challenge, I did this with GameMaker Visual. It originally was known as drag and drop, where it's visual scripting, but now it's called GMM Visual. So what I learned is that I can click on Live Preview here.
There we go.
And then we'll show the code as a preview in the GameMaker language.
So you could actually get in there if something wasn't right, tweak a variable here or there or a string, and impact it in parallel.
Yeah, so the live preview is in read only, but I can always right click right here and then convert it to regular code.
So why would you then choose the option to convert it into regular code?
Because drag and drop can do what regular coding can do, but if you wanted to do regular coding, you can do like more advanced things that would take a bit more time if you did it with visual scripting.
Now, is there a like a zeitgeist level? Oh, you got zoom. So zooming out to see the whole project.
Yeah, you can actually zoom in and out with these buttons right here.
Sure. I was just curious to know how many different boxes you have for this entire game. How many of these modules, if you will, like a high level overview. Like, can we see them all?
Zoom in if you can.
Yeah. See, this is what I was curious about. Just to get that done. I mean, that's basic programming. I mean, for back in the day, I mean, it's a little more structured, I feel. I mean, in terms of the visuals, because I had, when I was in high school, we had a basic programming class for DOS. That's as advanced as it got. So, what games inspire you? I don't think I asked that question. Or wait, what games did you grow up with? You don't want to tell me?
I'll tell you. So back in the mid to late 90s, it was mostly a Nintendo, Sega, and PlayStation household.
Mm-hmm.
My first console was the N64, but I actually started off with I didn't actually start out because it wasn't like the console I'm about to talk about wasn't actually a console. It was called the Sega Pico. It was more of a educational toy.
Interesting.
I'm familiar with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. And it was kind of like a Genesis for little kids.
Huh.
And the cartridges, like, this is what was unique about the cartridges. The cartridges actually had like different pages, like a book.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just put the cartridge into the system, and then you could like flip the pages, and then you have like a magic pen, and you can actually touch stuff on the pages while the cartridge was still in the game.
Yeah, super interactive.
Interesting. Well, apparently it got you started in this. So then, if you say you're kind of aspiring to do this, is that in your career? Are you doing anything in relation to development, software development in general?
Not just basic game development.
Now, today?
Yes.
That's fascinating. But like I said, you've done this, or you could do this. You've already gotten further than I think. I feel, even though I said, "Oh, I just pick it up," I was just like, I don't know, man. I kind of, I yield because I feel like if I want to do something, I'm going to try to do it the best that I possibly can. And I don't know if I have the I don't know if I have the patience to do something like this, because it's got to take patience. Yeah.
It really does, but this isn't actually the first game engine I messed with. The first game engine I actually messed with before I took my programming class was called XNA Game Studio, and it used Visual Studio with C#. I had to follow along with the tutorial, and then that was my first kind of quote unquote entry into code.
But
But
clearly,
after,
it worked.
yeah,
And then you ultimately found your way here.
yep. So let me show you something else.
Sure.
That I did. All right, waiting for it to load up here. So this was the typing game I did weeks ago, and it's actually based on the Namco game Quick and Crash, which is a shooting gallery game, but I turned this into a typing game.
Oh, I want to see it.
So it's like a replica of the original arcade game, but it's just regular typing.
So then, how? So
Getting
play.
ready. He's getting ready to play here.
All right, so like when the message bar says ready, you press space, and then you get a word to type, and then you have to type that word. Press enter as fast as you can.
Great way of teaching typing. Well, and speed.
Speed, yeah.
Interesting. Negril says, for those that don't know, Terraria is actually XNA. Stardew Valley also started off in XNA.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So then, are those words from a dictionary, or are you just pulling them from somewhere?
I actually type those words into the code, and then it will randomly choose a word for you to type, and then it will display it in the middle of the screen.
I was gonna say, like, do you go to like? What would be interesting is like having a hook into like Wikipedia, pulling a Wikipedia page or whatever, and then
that would be really cool if I could do that, but I don't know how to do that.
That'd be really hard. I mean, like, it'd be a hard game to play. I couldn't tell you the complexities of doing it with Wikipedia, but like, because Wikipedia is full of all sorts of words that most people have never heard of before.
Except you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Truck's word for words.
I have a propensity for being verbose.
See, you just used two right there that I just would never use.
Well, see, I'm a walking vocabulary lesson. Even what did I say? I was in the car today with we were driving home from Ant-Man, and Diana was bringing up something about another family, and I said, well, every family has a different dynamic, and Jedi, of course, in the backseat, what's a dynamic? I said, dynamic. Yeah, what's a dynamic? Dynamic. What is it? I'm like, well, it's kind of like the relationships you have with other people, and there's a certain flow between them. And she said, oh, I don't speak nerd language. I'm like, oh,
oh that's great.
I said, well, I'm teaching you. I will teach you. I told her, I said, hey, you want to run the world, you want to rule the world, be a nerd. Nerds rule the world.
I don't speak nerd language.
I don't speak nerd. So, I'm a word nerd. It is true. I unabashedly so. Sorry, I just threw another one at you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you for sharing this, Dragon.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah. This is, I mean, like I said, it's a fantastic, it's nice to be able to do things like this experiment, the Locker Room Arcade, if only because you may have seen me do this, that, or the other thing, or you may have been connected in some other way. But we all have interests, backgrounds. Even like last night, Cena, diving into, or was it last night? Yeah, it was the his corner of the world, network adminning, which was also a very fantastic conversation. So I enjoy having these conversations. I very much enjoy them, welcome them, especially like the nerdy, geeky things that I don't know anything about, that expands maybe just a little bit, my understanding or appreciation for the skill sets that all y'all bring to the table for different reasons. So, no, that's fantastic.
It's a great time to be in tech.
Yeah, I tell you what.
There's so much selection. There's so much selection of what you want to specialize in.
Oh, hang on.
It just baffles my mind of all the different job titles that are within just my organization. And we're not a tech company, but you would think it when you'd see our tech division.
Well, I think every company these days is really touching tech in one way or another.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether they outsource it or have their own, right?
Yep.
See, that's the thing. When some people have, because I've had an interest in technology, but not in the same way. Not as a developer, not as an admin, not as any of those titles. So people say, "Oh, have you thought about this?" And I look at the job description, I'm like, "What makes you think I understand any of this? You want to talk about gibberish?" Like, if I looked at a job application for, let's say, an IT professional, right over my head, which doesn't mean that something that I do might not impact somebody so that they become an IT professional, or an IT professional, out there might, have tuned into me in one way or another. But that's the problem, is like it's inferred that I have an understanding of a highly technical, level, and I don't. Like, I'm not. It's always surface level. It's fascinating to me to see what people do with technology, and of course communicate that, but never like this. Never. So you got a Marvel game loaded there, it looks like.
Yeah. So now we're in Unity.
Oh yeah. Okay, you got it. Go.
All right. So this is what I did last year over on Unity Learn in their junior programmer course.
Okay.
This was part of their final project where you have to demonstrate the 4 different pillars of programming, like
what are they?
abstract abstract parenting, and then there was the other 2 pillars.
Well, I remember they may not have been pillars, but the columns were Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. Those were the three types of Roman pillars back in the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. They had a different style to them, like the old, Roman. Okay, it wasn't a programming thing, but those are the only pillars I know. That's the only association I can make with pillars and columns. Does any tell me I'm not the only one who remembers Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian? Please.
Okay, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Put my fingers
Dragon.
crossed, I'll say
See, you, anybody?
No.
Oh, hang on, Big Funny Giant. He or she recognizes.
There you go. You're not alone.
There you go. You're
Thank
not
you.
alone. Starting to believe Jedi more and more. Go ahead.
I don't speak nerd language. Stop it. All right, so we got a Marvel game. We're gonna play it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you, and then I'll also show you some of the code.
Yeah, don't show us all the code. Just show us some of it.
Yeah, I'll show you some of it.
Yeah, just some. Don't show all. I'm ribbing you. Oh, do I have to change this to Marbles on stream? Do I change the topic now? We got Marvel. It's on stream, technically speaking. We're not violating anything.
That's true. You didn't say which type of marbles.
That's very true.
Technically speaking. Oh, did it not go?
Oh, my intro didn't pop up.
Oh, okay. Oh, you even have an intro. That's how you know a game's going to be good. It's got a storyline to it. Bill Marble. or you know. Is it loading?
Oh, I found it.
Hey, thank you for following. Welcome in, City of Dev. You're tuned in to a 24/7 stream, the Locker Gnome Arcade, hosted by me, Chris Pirillo. And every night, right around this time, 6 p.m. Pacific, we do something called TLDR, the Locker Gnome Daily Report. And usually it's covering tech news, tech deals, tech talk. And this is very much one of those evenings. Tonight is a tech talk with a couple of game developers who are connected here and have been playing along with the arcade idea. Dragon Samurai and Negril, who just showcased some of the games that they're working on. So thank you for popping in and following at a perfect time. Given that Dev is in your handle, it could be good timing. Now we're waiting for something to load right now, Dragon.
Oh, it didn't even pop up. Let me fix that.
Because I having never played the game, I couldn't tell you how it goes. I've played marbles before. I've lost my marbles before. I have Star Wars marble. You want to see a Star Wars marble? I'll show you a Star Wars marble. I got it over
Oh,
here.
there was a game on the PC called Lose Your Marbles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but actually, I have more than one. I have a Darth Vader marble too. But this is a licensed. It's a Stormtrooper marble, and it's a marble. Like it's a big marble. They made a series of them years ago. I didn't know about it until afterwards. If you think of anything like like, oh, what about this? I bet you there's a Star Wars, something of it. Like, oh, I bet you they don't have Star Wars scissors. Yes, they do. Oh, I bet you they don't have Star Wars tape dispensers. Yes, they do. Oh, I bet you they don't have Star Wars marbles. Yes, they do. So
anything and everything they can license.
That's what I'm saying. Like I kind of pride myself, and that's my kind of. I feel like that's the thing I love about the Star Wars collecting is that it's not just the figures. I just if they'll put Star Wars on it, I'll grab it. We didn't really see anything, but you can go ahead and just jump into the game.
All right, let me load that up right now. All right, here we go.
Nice. Is that your game studio? Is that your producer credits?
Yep, that's actually my game company, Maryland Dragon Game Studios.
Oh, cool. I don't know. I guess years ago, someone actually, in fact, not Mozup. Sorry, I got Mozup on the brain because he was the last person to chat. Thank you. Negril had pointed out he's doing some kind of, he said a Locker Gnome game or whatever, which would be funny because years ago on Tech TV, someone actually did like an 8-bit game, and it was on. It must have been with Call for Help. And I don't know if I have that video anywhere, but it was actually available for. I think it may be. Oh, here we go. Larry Laffer. Is this? Oh gosh, does it still work? Leisure Suit Larry Laffer, Locker Gnome Quest. Hang on. So it's a Quest redo. So here, someone actually did put me. I swear this was it. I could be wrong. But it was an 8-bit like graphic kind of thing, but it was called like Chris Pirillo or Locker Gnome, and I can't for the life of me. I thought it was on like Archive or whatever, but someone actually years ago on like in back when like 20 years ago when you could still do that kind of thing. Yeah, Brian. Here we go. Someone actually did something years and years and years ago. Here's the link to that. Oh, we're waiting. Yeah, so I don't know if you can still play it, but yeah, a Locker Gnome retro style Locker Gnome game did exist. It got raided. Oh my god, wait, hang on. Someone raided attempt and escape after accidentally locking yourself in a super secure gnome locker. The puzzle game is very small in scope. One room basically. which hampers a lot of the puzzle design space. That said, the puzzle was pretty good. I think this game was made just a demo on TV. Forgot the name of the show. So there's no use complaining that it isn't bigger in scope than it is. If you have 5 to 10 minutes, give it a shot. It is better than watching TV. And you
I
get
call that a win.
What's that?
I call that a win.
I think so. So I look, the game, that's me in the game, the Locker Room Quest game. It's funny. So it's been years. It's been at least 20 years since someone did a Locker Room game. Girl, if you're up for the challenge.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah, I love a challenge. Let's do
Well,
it.
there you go. Do a game that everyone plays on stream at the same time and fun.
That's would be
leaderboarding.
intention. Yeah.
Simple. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that is. That's funny. All right, are we ready to play some marbles?
Yep. We go endless mode here. So the object of the game is to move your marble to collect like the different color cubes.
Ooh,
I like those.
yeah, I do too.
Oh my goodness.
So are you using
And-
the keyboard, or are you using like
Yeah,
a,
you get to use the arrow keys to move the marble around.
Dude,
And
I
the different
really
color
like
cubes
that.
have different point values.
Wait, what has different point values? Sorry.
The different color cubes.
Okay. I figured it'd be
And
like,
you have to get a certain amount of cubes in order to move on to the next level before time runs out.
yeah.
So I made it fast paced like an arcade game.
Mhm.
Right now what you're seeing is endless mode. Originally version 1.0 just had the start button and then endless mode. But thanks to the power of GitHub, actually changed it, made several different versions. Right now what you're seeing is version 2.2. And I added in a survival mode.
You
So-
should keep going with this. I mean, this is, you got a good foundation here. I'd keep going with this.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, Toxic Doom saying it reminds him of Snake without
yeah.
the snake, and it
Snake
Snake
kinda
without
is.
the snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving this.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah, I
spend
like
a lot
it.
of
That's what I'm
time
saying,
on
dude.
that
I
Snake
think you
game
got
back in
something
the
here,
day.
dude.
And then you could even put obstacles in there.
Yeah, like things pop up or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or
Oh,
even poison cubes that if you get it, how could you do cubes that you have to avoid, right? And that maybe
Maybe
change the
ones
game
that
dynamic.
appear
Color
and then disappear.
Color
they-
changing cubes.
Yeah, they
And
where
they
they
turn
reverse.
black or something. Then
Yeah,
it
yeah,
would, like,
or they
blow
slow
up
you
and take
down,
points
or they
or
reverse
something.
you, or cause you to jump or something. You know.
Start
Yeah.
shooting at your ball,
Or it
and make
could
you
take some
bounce and
time off the
ricochet
clock or
off.
something.
So much you
Yeah,
can do
take
with
time
Yeah,
off the
there's-
clock.
You got a lot of room here.
Mm.
I mean, I am far from a game reviewer or game aficionado, but I'm just telling you, you've got simple mechanics. It's something that's so simple. I could hand this game over to Jedi, and she'd be able to figure it out. Of course, she wants it on her iPad, so you'd have to do it. You'd have to do it that way, but
And think of all the different backgrounds that you could have on
Yeah.
the table.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Look at that. Here's your first review, Mazza.
This is a better game than Snake. Yeah,
There you go.
It looks pretty,
Print it on the
pretty
box.
much that.
Yeah, put that on the front of the box.
So we
It's
expect
games still come in boxes, but yeah.
we expect to see more of
Look at those.
more
sounds
of
getting really
this
hard.
being developed in the Locker Room Arcade. We want to see more development of this game.
Absolutely.
Toxic says if I did iPad or tablet, I can make it motion control. Oh, that will be a
Oh, yeah.
challenge.
See, I was thinking
yeah,
about
you
you could
could
have
gyro.
it so
Yeah.
maybe the board starts tilting and you have to counteract that. That could be another game
You mean
mode.
like tilting the iPad? Using the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like tilting
Yeah.
the iPad. Use the gyroscope.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can also
Remind me
put
of those
it on
little
the
games where
Switch.
you're trying to do that with the ball, right? What?
Mm.
You remember
Yeah,
those
you
games
could
that had the
definitely
little ball
put it
with the
on the
maze and
Switch
you had
with
to
that.
kind of tilt around?
Yeah, the Switch would be perfect for that.
Now that's giving me off Super Monkey Ball vibes.
Yeah,
Yep,
yes, Super Monkey
yep,
Ball, yeah,
yep.
yep.
That's right.
I would stick with this the way that this plays though, and just
simple.
have different obstacles or different game modes inside this box.
So we got a question here from one of our new followers. Thank you, Cydia, again. Do PS5 Xbox controller have gyroscope? Ooh, I don't know if they do. Not the controllers themselves. I don't know if I've even heard of any games that. And you know, the funny thing is, if they did, everyone would screw things up. Because if you're driving, you see people tilt their controller like this or tilt their controller like that. They're all
PS4
did have it.
Yeah, I think the PS5 has.
I'm pretty sure when if you play the demo game, right? That Astro game, I think it has that.
Whatever it's called. Yeah, if you play that, it does demo all of the. It's basically a show.
It's the tech demo, isn't it?
Tech demo for what the controller can do.
It's not a bad little game though either.
No, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
I played through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yo, the goat. The goat is here.
GOAT? Yeah. You keep developing that for sure. It's a good game. And by the way, that's not me paying you lip service. Seriously, I'm not. I'll tell you, I have a problem with telling people what I feel sometimes, and sometimes it's a little more direct than it should be. But you've got, this is a good dynamic. I build upon this for sure, and I think everyone else in the chat that sees it, I think agrees. Yeah, it's it could be a very addicting casual game.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you say that, because I actually played a bunch of casual games as a kid, over on stuff like Real Arcade and Game House and Wild Tangent.
Yep. Oh, Wild Tangent. I remember that. That was like crapware though on systems. So thank you, Dragon. I really appreciate that. I think you're gonna have some requests to upload this somewhere where people can play it, even in its current state, in a binary. Would it be compiled then just for Windows?
Since it's going to be on the Unity executable.
Okay. Yeah.
It can actually run on Windows, Mac, and Linux.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're going to get requests to do that.
Yep.
Maybe we should set up a Lock and Iron Arcade webpage, and we can just stick games on there that people make.
Yeah. Well, honestly, at least we know we have 2 game devs in the house. And I know that there was someone for MakerDeck that volunteered to do like a wiki site, so that might be just as easy to do.
Yes.
For Locker Gnome, and having a game wiki, if you will, because there's not much else like to build around. Wiki would be a good foundation for it.
Cydia Dev, I'm gonna have to look into trail rendering, because I have never heard of that. But yeah, I can totally release this. I have a itch.io page, and also have a Game Jolt and Twitter under my Maryland Dragon brand. Well, not brand, a company, actually.
Itch. Yeah, I'm familiar with Itch.
Bye-bye. I'm really glad you like this, even though this was like a project I had to do on my own time in order to learn Unity.
I mean, it's a good foundation that you can build upon and improve, like with the graphics and this, everything in and around it. But the general play of it is I think everything that makes a good game. It's fun. It's simple. You can jump in. It's playable. I don't need instructions, and I love those kinds of games. Just to jump in and figure it out. Okay, that's great. Kind of like what Negril was showing with his dungeon thing. I'm like, I can figure that out. Like it's easy. And but that's me, right? I'm not looking for complex storylines and characters and fancy this, that, and the other thing. I just want to pick it up and pick up the ball and run with it. All right. Well, thank you, Dragon. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Great. It was great to have both you and Negril not just talk about this kind of stuff, but actually showcase what it is you're working on actively. Oh, thank you, Negril. Negril found or pulled up the webpage for the Locker Gnome game. It's better than television, so which is See, that's the one I remember. I remember someone doing that years and years and years ago.